Well, that's all coming. But first, ITV News has learned that UK food safety chiefs are considering banning some chicken and egg imports from Poland after a surge in Salmonella cases. In a joint investigation with the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, we've seen a letter from UK officials to Poland's chief veterinary inspectorate. It highlights thousands of human Salmonella infections and even some deaths linked to Polish products in recent years. And it raises very real concerns about the failure to tackle the bacterial disease. Our science correspondent Martin Stew has this special report.
From chicken breast to chicken burgers, eggs to escalopes, Brits have a huge appetite for poultry. On average, we each eat around 200 eggs and 35 kilograms of chicken every year. If it's not cooked properly, some can make us sick.
It was one of the worst things I've ever had.
Nick Darroch became ill with Salmonella, a bacterial infection, after eating undercooked chicken. In the last decade, the number of hospitalisations with the infection have risen 76%.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Starts off with headaches, fever, cramp in the stomach, aches and pains, sickness and diarrhoea, and it goes on and on and on, and you just think, when's this ever going to end? It's horrendous.
UK food safety bosses are particularly worried about Salmonella cases linked to one country, Poland, and are now considering banning some products. In a letter to the country's chief vet obtained by ITV News and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, 6 major Salmonella outbreaks, which caused at least 2,680 human infections and several deaths, were linked to the country's suppliers. As a result of failures to tackle Salmonella, the letter said, we are considering the options available to protect UK consumers, which could include the potential for safeguard measures on affected products.
This is where we grow our Salmonella.
This lab is our last line of defence. UK HSA scientists tracked a recent outbreak to Polish poultry at a curry house. The team is small and the challenge is growing.
If we see a strain of Salmonella and that matches the genetic code of another one, say from a food product, then we know that's where the common source is, because if we don't stop these outbreaks occurring and put control measures into place, the numbers will continue to increase and it will be very difficult to manage.
It's not just consumers concerned.
So every egg has an individual number which is unique to the farm, so it's fully traceable back to the farm.
William Morn keeps 30,000 free-range hens near Darlington. Like all British farmers, his birds are vaccinated against Salmonella.
And we test 4 weeks after the birds have come.
Today's strict rules are to stop a repeat of things like this.
We do warn people now that most of the egg production of this country, sadly, is now infected with Salmonella.
Then Health Minister Edwina Currie's infamous interview in the 80s caused panic. 400 million eggs were destroyed and 4 million hens culled. William's dad nearly went bust. He's worried cheap imports could cost the industry's reputation and would welcome a ban if standards aren't up to scratch.
Well, I think if they can't demonstrate that, I think there's a very strong case that they should be stopped. It's a human health issue. You know, the public need to be protected from the disease, and you know, worst case happens as an outbreak, and it's about confidence in the product and confidence the consumer has in consuming eggs.
Polish imports are on the rise. 1 in 9 portions of chicken we now eat comes from the country, as well as 340 million eggs. The country's farmers have been criticised for overuse of veterinary antibiotics. Records show some of the Salmonella strains responsible for outbreaks in the UK were resistant to the very drugs we rely on for human treatment. Poland's chief veterinary inspectorate said EU regulations are adhered to and that the complex supply chain meant there is no conclusive evidence contaminated products originated from Poland. Compared to the quantity of poultry we eat in this country, infection risk remains low. To protect our health and our farmers, we need to keep it that way.
Martin, these are really worrying findings, aren't they?
They are. I think it's really worth saying, you know, in this country, we do have high food standards and relatively low levels of salmonella. It's the reason why, unlike America, we don't have to wash our chickens in chlorine and we can keep eggs on the side and not in the fridge. That said, it's really important that we keep it that way, which is why the FSA, the Food Standards Agency, obviously wrote this letter to the Polish authorities. They say as a result of doing that, action has been taken. They're starting to see cases come down, although there are still some questions about how well that is being tracked. I think the headline really is, if you cook your chicken properly and you do the sensible things like washing your hands, you are fine. But if you're in one of the more vulnerable groups, let's say you're pregnant, for example, and you want to have a runny egg, the official advice is you're better off having a British egg with a red lion mark than one of the imports, because you're just safer in knowing that it's definitely going to be salmonella free.
OK, Martin Stew, thank you.